All right, let's talk about food laws in the Old Testament. There were three kinds of laws. There were moral laws, judicial laws, and ceremonial laws. Judicial laws are in regards to the punishments for criminals. This is because the entire place was a theocracy, which means that they were under theonomy, which means that they followed God's law. This means that if somebody were to, for example, unalive another person with malice of forethought, meaning the unjustified unaliving of another human being, that person is to receive capital punishment as a result of doing such a bad deed. That is theonomy. If you steal from somebody, you must pay them back double what the thing was worth. That is theonomy. Whenever Jesus was on earth, Israel was under the control of the Roman government, which means that if they wanted to enact theonomy, they had to get permission from the Roman government to do so. For example, this is why they had the entire trial with Pontius Pilate in order to get permission to crucify Jesus. They could not crucify Jesus under the theocratic laws unless they got the permission from the Roman government, because the Roman government was tyrannically ruling over them. And according to God's law, theonomy, if someone were to call themselves by the name of God, then that person is to be put for blasphemy. That is exactly what happened with Jesus. Jesus said that he is God, and they killed him for it. Now, there were also the ceremonial laws. Ceremonial laws are the primary ones that we're going to be talking about, because ceremonial laws are the ones saying, for example, do not have your clothing be made of mixed fibers. Do not eat pork. Do not eat crawfish. Those kinds of things. Most of these were to keep a sense of ceremonial purity about whenever there was a sacrifice being performed. In addition to that, it was quite literally also just to make sure that people were staying hygienic, which would reduce disease. Such as the most ancient form of quarantine that we can find is in the Bible, where it says that if someone has a disease like leprosy, they are not to be within the camp of people until they no longer have a disease. You know, in America, whenever we had this whole global problem, we were quarantining healthy people, which does the exact opposite of what you want it to do. Stay home, save lives. Different video. And if I talk about that, I'll definitely get banned on TikTok. Again. But within the ceremonial law, there's something called a holy code. The word holy means to be set apart or different. That's why Christians are called to be holy. They are supposed to be set apart. They are supposed to be different from the other people. But primarily, we are different because we are the adopted children of God. Israel was supposed to be set apart because they were the chosen people of God that were supposed to be adopted. And most of them were. But a lot of the Israelites, you just see this constant sway in the Bible where a lot of the people are just constantly worshiping demons and then coming back and then worshiping demons and then others come back and then worship demons. It's just this constant back and forth with Israel over the centuries where they just constantly keep betraying God. But eventually, when God became flesh and dwelt among us, and he died in order to reconcile humanity to himself, he opened everything up to the entire world. The gospel is the power of God for salvation, first to the Jew and then to the Gentile. But then that led to a little bit of mixing. So it led to the different practices being done in different ways, which got a little bit confusing for a lot of people, including Peter. Peter was very confused about that. When we see in Acts chapter 10, he's having this dream where he's surrounded by all these animals that were deemed to be unclean by the ceremonial laws. But in this vision, God is telling him, I gotta word this differently because of TikTok. God is telling him to get up, hunt, and eat. Paul reiterates this, and I believe it's 1 Timothy 2:4 or 1 Timothy 4:2. It's one of those where it says that in later times, people will abandon the faith and follow deceiving spirits and things taught by demons. They will forbid people from eating certain foods, which all things, and I'm paraphrasing now, I apologize, but it says that all things have been made and are good for eating through Thanksgiving. Then it goes on to also say that they will forbid people to marry and do insert. It basically just describes Roman Catholicism as this evil thing that people are going to do in the future. All those things that were ceremonially unclean, God changed it because God fulfilled the law. So whenever God fulfilled the law and obeyed the law, now the only one of the laws that are actually still in place is the moral law. So the judicial law, there's a lot of people, myself included, that wish that the world was ran on theonomy. We wish that the governing systems would actually look to the Bible and would actually go based on that for enacting justice. A wonderful example of that is if you have a PDF who is harming children, the Bible would say that that guy needs to get capital punishment immediately. That if a man is to rape a woman, he is to be put to death. That is theonomy. That's what the Bible teaches. I would like a lot of those things to be in practice in today's society. That would make the world a lot better. It's very unfortunate for the world as a whole that we don't have those laws being enacted, but it's very fortunate for the very evil people in this world that those laws are not being enacted. But so to just briefly summarize this, we are not held by the ceremonial laws or the Holy Code. We are still held to the moral law, which means the 10 Commandments. Those are the ones that we need to hold to. You shall have no other God before me. You shall make for yourself no graven image of anything on the heavens above and the earth below or the seas beneath. You shall not blaspheme the name of God. Honor the Sabbath, keep it holy. Honor thy father and mother. Do not steal, do not murder, do not commit adultery. Do not bear false witness, do not covet. These are moral things that every other possible sin can be defined into one of those 10 categories. And we are held by that. That's what sins are. To break those moral laws is to sin. Eating pork? It's not a sin. That was part of the ceremonial laws, and primarily the pork part was restricted, fun fact, because they used pigs to dispose of human bodies, and the whole like you are what you eat, that is a very legitimate thing. So whenever these pigs are actually going and eating the corpses of deceased humans to dispose of the bodies, that whole process is the pig is taking in something that if you then ate the pig, then you're taking in the bad something, and that is going to be very toxic to your body. You are not supposed to ever eat the same kind of meat that you are made of. And that goes for every kind of animal. You see cannibalism in any society, you see it in any kind of animal, and it always has the same effects, and it is a terrifying, terrifying study. So that's the primary reason that pork was forbidden and why it was so dirty. Now, it's not dirty because we don't do that anymore, except the cartel does that in Mexico. So that's the slight caveat to that one. But yeah, nowadays we are bound exclusively by the moral law, but we are free from the ceremonial laws. Paul reiterates that many times. Jesus declared that. We can eat pork. We're good. I hope this answered your question. God bless.